key that we saw with founding teams was to really bring in folks that have a complementary talent set, and you've got strong chemistry, because you're going to be in the foxhole for many years together. But the key was to understand the dynamics of the marketplace. The way we architected it was we focused on a vertical. We hyper-focused right from day one, and we right-sized the funding to kind of map to the problem we were solving.
The cloud is great. It solves a lot of real-world problems, but it's not just one cloud anymore. Public clouds, private clouds, edge clouds. The average business uses 5 different cloud providers. It's become chaotic and complex, with unpredictable costs, inconsistent security, multiple management tools, and different formats for workloads that span cloud platforms and providers. But it doesn't have to be that way. The Dell Technologies Cloud, powered by VMware, can be the one constant across your clouds. It brings consistent infrastructure and operations to your multi-cloud environment, so you can choose the right cloud for each application. A public cloud that lets you easily tap into services, a private cloud that's fully under your control, or the edge with cloud as a service. With a true hybrid cloud experience, your business becomes more agile with simple workload migration and easy onboarding for new assets. Your teams get to market faster. With simplified operations and automated processes, you reduce risk and strengthen your security profile. And with Dell Technologies Cloud, you have flexible consumption options, reducing your total cost of ownership. Like it or not, the business world often requires many clouds. Now, that's easier than ever, with consistent infrastructure, operations, and services across all your clouds. You get the cloud without the chaos. The Dell Technologies Cloud.
We're going to be talking about exits and M&A, and I'd like to introduce our 2 speakers. Gaurav Bhasin is the Managing Director at Allied Advisors, and Sid Yamanandra is the CEO and co-founder of Entreda. And Gaurav, please introduce yourself and start our first session.
I've always chosen to surround myself by great people who are very forward-thinking when it comes to gender issues and diversity. I think diversity is a key and central element of any environment, and I've never been in an environment where diversity doesn't lead to a better place. From a science perspective, we know that if you have greater diversity of microbes, for example, in your gut, that you're more likely to be healthy. And that's finding of diversity of microbes in your gut. If you think about the diversity of people in a working environment, it leads to a healthier environment and more innovation.
Thank you, Shannon. It's a pleasure to be here. We appreciate the opportunity to come and present to entrepreneurs and investors at TiCon. So Sid and I will talk about a recent exit path that Entreda went through right during the midst of this corona storm, if you may, when the stock market was down about 30%. Entreda had a very nice exit at double-digit multiples. And we'll share some of the lessons from that journey. Just a couple of quick points. In M&A is a dominant form of liquidity for entrepreneurs. 95% of the exits happen there. So we hope some of these discussions will be helpful to you. We encourage you to reach out to us after. A bit of introduction on myself is I've been in technology for over 20 years, worked as an engineer, worked as a management professional, and then been an investment banker for about 15 years, both at bulge and boutique banks. I started Allied Advisors last year, and since I started, we have closed 5 transactions, sold a cloud software company to IBM, sold an AI company to RELX Elsevier, which is a $50 billion market cap company, advised a collaboration software company to Marlin Equity, and then recently Entreda, we advised them on a sale to K1 Capital. We have members of a team based in LA, in Israel, as well as in Mumbai, and we do transactions for technology companies globally. Entreda was Alight's client. They were a vertical SaaS company, a category leader providing compliance and cybersecurity solution to financial institutions, including broker dealers and RIAs. And here with us, we have Sid, who is the CEO and co-founder of Entreda, which went through the exit process, our client. So Sid. So Sid, be great if you can give an introduction on your background.
Yeah, thank you, Gaurav. Yeah, this is Sid Yanamandra. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Entreda. As Gaurav mentioned, we just recently completed our acquisition with K1 Capital and one of K1's portfolio companies called Smarsh. Just to give you a little background on myself, Entreda, I started Entreda back in 2011, 2012. We founded the company in 2011, started operations in 2012. I've done 3 startups prior to this. Most of my companies have been sort of venture funded or venture bootstrapped. I did a project for the NSA in 2008 where we developed some technology to help the NSA secure certain assets of national interest. My last company prior to Entreda was in the data center security space. We exited that to a company called NetLogic, which was acquired for $4 billion. I was the head of product. I did a startup back in 2002, which was an early form of software-defined networking, which also exited to another company in the Valley. So yeah, super excited to be here, talk a little bit about our experience, both with Gaurav as our advisor and just getting a transaction done in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, thanks, Sid. So, when you start a company, there are many, many important milestones. One of the big milestones in my mind is, the founding team. Can you tell us a little bit about, how you found your co-founder? And also you were a Bay Area company, but you had a big engineering team in India. Can you talk a little bit about sort of some of the benefits there? Be good to get your perspective on it.
Yeah, as far as the founding team is concerned, it's a pretty personal journey whenever you're building a company. The key that we saw with founding teams was to really bring in folks that have a complementary talent set, and you've got strong chemistry because you're going to be in the foxhole for many years together. As far as the India team was concerned, we had a pretty high quality workforce out of India. We actually had 2 locations in India. The benefits of India are talent and obviously the cost base. If you look at the product that we were going after, we were solving a very industry specific issue around how do financial services firms manage cybersecurity and compliance workflows. It was a pretty manual sort of product today. I mean, the way that's handled is done in a very manual way. And so leveraging technology to be able to automate that was the core value prop. So we built sort of a product, a vertically focused SaaS company. We in fact even recruited one of, in the early days, one of our clients that had rolled out our product to bring in a lot of industry knowledge. So we brought that individual on board as well. So that, the founding team was really an amalgamation of folks that, we had strong chemistry, people that really could solve the problem sort of in the right way without it being overkill. So yeah,
No, I think also your hire of Chris Shaw, who was an industry, he was actually your customer and he liked the product so much that he came on board and he was very helpful in you selling to that vertical, which wasn't adopting software. So I think a lesson for the entrepreneurs here is if you're going into a vertical, try to get industry folks to evangelize your product. That helps, adoption and traction happen.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, Sid, one of the things, I think entrepreneurs kind of go this in their journey is how much capital should I raise? There's a lot of news about venture funding. You raised venture funding, but you didn't raise gobs and gobs of venture capital, even though you had a lot of money thrown at you. You are also unique, or nowadays is getting a little bit more common, but back then you also raised a little bit of debt capital. So tell me a little bit about your corporate finance philosophy. You raised some venture money, you raised some debt. Talk a little bit about that journey and why you did the things you did and how that helped you in the exit process.
Yeah, and again, just like the founding team, right sizing the team is super important. Right sizing the funding needs are also equally important when you look at architecting the company, right? So we raised a small amount of venture capital. We were extremely wise, very efficient, capital efficient in the way we built the business. We had capital offered to us at multiple points throughout the journey of the company since founding. In fact, after we hit the 1 million ARR mark, a lot more options sort of opened up because we had gotten to initial scale, if you will, or some product market fit. We actually took in some debt capital because we knew at that point that the dogs were eating the dog food, which means we had already identified a set of customers that had validated the concept, and we had to sort of scale the business. So we brought in debt capital to kind of limit dilution and also sort of right size the investment. And again, we chose a vertically focused SaaS model. So we were not a horizontal SaaS company. So we could also be super efficient from a sales and marketing perspective because the key was to understand the dynamics of the marketplace. And there was a lot of competition. The competition for us was pretty much Excel spreadsheets, right? It was all manual. Folks were doing things in a very manual way, and we were automating it using cybersecurity and compliance tools. So that sort of allowed us to be a category leader in that space. One of the biggest things I always tell entrepreneurs is that in the early days, it's very tempting to go broad and to go build big markets. You can certainly do that, but there's other ways to architect the company as well. And the way we architected it was we focused on a vertical. We hyper-focused right from day one, and we right-sized the funding to kind of map to the problem we were solving.
Yeah, thanks for that, Sid. Is so important takeaway here is have a good vertical focus, become the category leader. People recognize your brand.
Yep.
People buy it from you. Your sales costs are lower. Get industry veterans in there, and your cap table, keep it manageable such that the founding team has control over their destiny,
Right.
and that you can pivot the company to the direction it needs to go because you are kind of in the trenches, if you may, and running the business.
Yep.
So, Sid, you went through the process. You obviously had people approach you throughout your journey. Your customer wins were noticed by larger companies, whether it's security companies, fintech companies, GRC companies, private equity firms. Why did you choose a banker? Tell us your experience with the banker, Allied, and how was it to work with us, and also tell us the benefits of choosing a banker in your journey of exit.
Yeah, again, excellent question there, Gaurav. I mean, throughout the process, there was a number of inflection points that, from ideation to sort of building the product, recruiting the team, going after, the financial services space, specifically wealth management, and sort of keep, hunkering down and sort of growing the business. We had a lot of opportunities along the way, both for funding as well as exits. Again, the benefit of being hyper-focused is a lot of the industry players notice you, especially if you're, getting the big wins, as you said. So, the decision of an exit is never an easy one. At any given time, you're always sort of looking at multiple factors and you're sort of comparing if it makes sense to do the exit or not. But regardless of that, the most important thing for us was, as the revenue grew, more opportunities started, coming at us. We needed a trusted advisor to kind of help us run the process, right? We wanted to run a process that was scalable. I spoke to some large bulge bracket, investment banks, some smaller ones, we met you, of course. And again, it was a matter of right sizing the firm, right? And, I think with you guys, the biggest thing that we saw was that you would be a trusted partner. So one of the things when you go through an exit is it's important to distance yourself as a founder from the process, because you got to run the business while you're transacting or you're running a process. And so working with a trusted partner is super important. Someone that can provide you sound advice during the process, someone that you can rely on, maybe take a phone call on a weekend when you're kind of going through your ups and downs of the process, right? And there will be many. So I think we really had a lot of that with you guys. And so there's a lot of folks out there that want to try to get a deal done on their own, and they think that, they got to work with a name brand. Again, it's a matter of right sizing the partner that you choose. And obviously the results sort of speak for themselves here.
I appreciate that. And, through this process, you were a client and now you're a friend. So, really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah.
One of the things is, when Corona hit us, nobody kind of knew what was happening. I mean, in our generation, we haven't seen something like this. We have lived through 2001, we have lived through 2008, we have lived through, different sort of turning points. But Corona was really new for us. And, you exited at a pretty nice premium value during Corona. We heard about deals kind of falling apart. There was deals in Wall Street Journal talking about, vertical SaaS companies, especially in restaurant travel space, people pulling out of deals. But you ended up doing the deal when the Dow was down 30% and everything was kind of felt like the world was coming to an end. Tell us a little bit about sort of what helped that transaction take place, and it also is a testament to the company that you and your co-founder and your team have built. So maybe can you tell us about, what in your mind kind of got the deal done during COVID timeframes and, some advice for the entrepreneurs as they consider exit during this time?
Again, I think that's an excellent point. I mean, these were certainly unprecedented times, right, with COVID. I take a step back and sort of look at the overall process, and I would say that the goal should be to build a top-notch SaaS company and focus on metrics. And so I think that's something we had done, focused on our customers, made sure that the churn rates were low. Now, compliance is naturally a bit stickier as just as an opportunity to go after as a product. So we had that benefit in that, our churn numbers were low. In fact, as a result of COVID, we were, as you would call, a COVID beneficiary in some ways, in that we benefited from COVID. Our entire product was built around helping firms manage cybersecurity risk when they have a distributed workforce. The minute COVID hit, everyone was distributed. So it sort of had a catalyst effect on the business. So the number of inbound leads actually kind of grew. So we were kind of fortunate by that. But I think the point that I want to make is focus on fundamentals, build a great company, focus on growth, focus on customers, making sure they're taken care of, and stay very close to them. And that was something we did during the COVID time. Keep your churn rates low. We were also very fortunate in that the firm that we worked with, that we transacted with, was very supportive in the process, and they stayed true to their word. There was no retrading that occurred. There were obviously concerns, on my part and your part and some of the other folks, the board. But I think the fact that they transacted true to their word, given the fact that the fundamentals of the business were strong, I think is also a testament to the partner that you choose on the exit.
Yeah. So, a couple of things here. Your market size increase, one benefit of Corona there. Second thing I think was we had multiple parties who was interested in you, which also helped, get done at a premium value. And then the one thing which, I would also mention is you had a good relationship with the buyer, Smarsh and K1. Yep. They had known you for many years. They're seen you as a lead in the conference. The customers were talking about you. And this was one of those opportunities where they knew if they didn't do a transaction with you, you would end up with some other party and they didn't want to let you go. So I think all of those things kind of helped
that's right.
in the exit. So, this is something all founders will have to consider. And this is a very personal decision. We are advisors, we can kind of guide you through this, but at the end of the day, it's ultimately your decision. You were profitable which is rare in the Valley, you were growing and you didn't have a lot of venture money to, constrain you in some ways, because sometimes that can also create a little bit of restrictions how you grow. You decided to sell. You had options with multiple parties. Can you talk us through a little bit about your team's and your board decision process into why did you end up going in a sale path and not continue standalone? It'll be good to get your perspective.
Yeah, at any given time, founders are presented with multiple opportunities to make a decision. I think in our case, really three things drove the decision, right? Number one, we wanted to make sure the investors got, a return that sort of made sense for everybody involved. Two, the founders, right, and the employees. We wanted to make sure that we were taken care of, the employees were taken care of. They had worked very hard to kind of build the company up to where it was. Third, and this is not in any particular order of priority, but customers, right, who supported us through the whole process. It was important that they were part of a large, as more and more customers, as we started closing $1 million ARR deals, customers were dependent on us. And so we wanted to make sure that, when we exited, the partner we found would treat those customers in the same way that we did, right? And they wouldn't change the relationship. So that was an important consideration. The other thing for me was I wanted to make sure the brand and identity of the business was maintained. So we were lucky in the fact that the exit that we had, we created a wholly owned subsidiary, which I still run. The entity of the company is still Entreda. We're still sort of driving towards the charter and sort of moving to the next phase of growth. But we have the benefit of having a larger firm that we partnered with. So we get, we get sort of airlift from, some of the G&A functions that the larger company can sort of offer. Yeah.
That's good. Thank you. Sounds like you hit all the boxes. Your investors were taken care of. The team was taken care of. Customers were happy.
Yeah.
You maintained your brand. And I think, congratulations to you. We wish you all the best. I think we may have time for a question or two, Shannon. Shannon, I think you're mute.
Yeah, we have time for one question. There's a question from the audience. How do you decide debt capital or equity shares? And you get the audience member says they feel you get more accountable doing things with equity.
Okay.
That's the question.
Gaurav, do you want to take that, and I can certainly add to it.
I think if the question is how do you do, equity distribution amongst founders, there's enough, articles there in terms of how you were shared amongst founders. If the question is, how much capital you need to raise, one group of investors say that, overcapitalized, so you don't need to go back for another fundraise for 2 years, or, you can grow at all cost. The one advice you would give to entrepreneurs is just make sure that, when you raise a lot of money, that you grow much faster, that your exit valuation or your growth kind of, matches with how much you have raised. Because sometimes, raising too much capital requires you to, grow much faster than your market can allow you to grow. In the case of Sid, he was still growing, but at the same time, he could do it in a thoughtful way without sort of, burning a lot of cash, and he was also profitable. So Sid, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, look, we were an anomaly in the Bay Area, right? So I think that, a lot of folks believe that you taking out a lot of capital, you grow, it's sort of, you grow like a rocket ship, right? Real fast. And, we took a slightly different approach, which was we wanted to keep it capital efficient. We didn't want to take in too much capital and sort of have that pressure, right? We knew our business. We sort of knew the customers we were going after. There was about 500 clients that we knew we had to sort of go after. We had 25. We had to get another, 100 by the end of the year. So it was a very focused sort of goal. And for that, we really needed capital to scale, because with SaaS businesses, you have to sort of invest, in marketing programs and sales programs. And so we had a very sort of thoughtful approach of how we took in capital. So in our case, the equity versus debt, question was a bit clearer, because we felt debt was a lot easier, because we kind of knew where we wanted to go, and it was sort of very measured. But there's no right or wrong answer here, right? I mean, you can certainly, for some firms, equity makes more sense. For some firms, debt makes more sense. It all depends on how you're architecting the company and what the exit pattern looks like.
Yeah, and just to add to that, the benefit was Entrada was a category leader in vertical SaaS. His competition was in-house manual solutions. So Entrada was coming in with a software approach, automation there to do a process. So his competition wasn't well funded by guys like Sequoia. If you go into a horizontal market, you need a bigger equity check to come into play. He was in a vertical SaaS market in an industry where software was chipping away at it. And also the benefit of debt versus equity was in debt, the debt lenders would keep watch on how his performance was, would put covenants on it, which I think is kind of putting discipline on the company. But at the same time, they wouldn't want to promote growth at all cost, because oftentimes you hear of companies where they have a lot of big sales team and the burn rate is pretty high, but they can never, kind of sustain that burn and eventually can get into a little bit of a trouble spot. So I'm actually writing a blog post on the use of debt capital for technology companies. Feel free to check that out on our website. And again, this is a personal question. Happy to discuss that with you. Feel free to reach out to Sid or myself down the road. Thank you.
So thank you, Gaurav and Sid.